From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Purcell. This is The Log. Today I want to talk about some taboo topics. I'm going to break some taboos. I'm going to think the unthinkable. I'm going to suggest the impossible. So stay tuned for that. But first, we begin as always. Well, let's see. Let's start with events and boycotts coming up. April 7th is the Walmart boycott, the 1-week Walmart boycott. Walmart this week, General Mills coming up, Amazon coming up. And then our big economic blackout number 2, that's a nationwide boycott of everybody. You don't buy anything. That is coming up on April 18th. So that's just next week. April 18th, mark your calendar, economic blackout number 2. We got almost no news coverage last time on the first one. So let's see if we can get some news coverage this time. Tesla takedowns continue. This is a weekly thing. The information I'm looking at takes it through into May. And we'll see if it continues after that. And the next big nationwide date for marches and rallies, mark your calendar for April 19th. Indivisible is one of the prime movers of this event. So we'll see if this one takes off. We need, more than anything, for the success of this past weekend to be sustained. So check out Indivisible, check with your people, and see if anybody else is picking up on this April 19th date. Since last time we spoke, boy, an interesting little stretch of days. On Thursday, the Orange Menace left D.C. even earlier than he normally does for his 3-day weekends. He left on Thursday this time to have a little party with the Saudis at Mar-a-Lago and play golf with them. And of course, Thursday, was also the first day of the market crash. And then Friday was interesting. There's a move in Congress to take away the Orange Menace's so-called emergency powers to declare all these tariffs, because that's the only way he has power to declare tariffs, is under an emergency declaration. They have the power, that is, Congress has the power to annul this emergency declaration. With one vote, the whole tariff thing could just be over. So they're working on that. Now, I'm not an economist, but this much I know. I know this for sure. The job report that came out on Friday, the jobs report, which was excellent by all accounts, that had absolutely nothing to do with the policies of the Orange Menace. You and I have talked at length about how most economic numbers have nothing to do with the current administration, at least in the first year or even the first couple of years. They have everything to do with the previous administration. So for them to take credit, of course, which they are, for them to take credit for this good jobs report is just a cynical joke. And anybody who buys it is just dumb as rocks. Speaking of jobs, one of his many reasons for these tariffs, the big one he's landed on is to bring back manufacturing jobs. Which is also, if you just think about it for half a second, you mean all the manufacturing jobs that will be lost to AI and to robotics in the next couple of years? As the experts tell us, even if you give him the biggest benefit of the doubt, okay, let's say he's right. All these tariffs on foreign countries will force manufacturers to build factories here in the United States and bring jobs here. Let's just pretend that would actually happen for a second. Even if it did, it would take 3, 4, 5 years to ramp up production. 3, 4, 5 years in terms of AI and robotics? Those factories are going to be completely automated. It has nothing to do with jobs. This is also just incredibly stupid. What else happened on Friday? Well, he golfed again, of course. Spent Friday golfing, and then Friday night, apparently there's another big dinner at Mar-a-Lago, a big fundraiser again with all of his sycophants. Also on Friday, those 4 soldiers who died in that tragic accident in Lithuania were returned to the United States. And whenever the remains of a fallen U.S. service member are returned, they have this ceremony at the airport called dignified transfer. And it's very solemn, and the flag-draped coffins are carried by service members. Family members are there, dignitaries, often the president. And if you saw the reports, this was really moving. The people of Lithuania came out by the thousands, filled the streets in tears as these soldiers were on their way back home from Lithuania. And they had this big ceremony, and the president of Lithuania spoke, and he was in tears. And it was really very moving. I was amazed by the pictures I saw. And so for this dignified transfer, it happened Friday night while the Orange Menace was golfing and having a nice, luxurious dinner with gold-plated knives and forks at Mar-a-Lago. Jesus, Mother Mary and Joseph, this guy. Yeah, he skipped the event to be with his buddies and the Saudis who sponsored 9/11 at his swank, gauche, tacky private Florida club. And if I forgot to mention already, Friday was the second day of the market crash, marking the two worst days since COVID. Then Saturday, of course, was the big day. Hundreds of thousands. Well, depending on the headline you see, some say hundreds of thousands, some say tens of thousands, some say millions of people poured into the streets for the big protests. And the good news is we finally saw some media coverage. Most outlets, that was their lead story. Not everyone, most of them led with this story. And those who didn't lead with it, it came in number 2 or 3. I mean, it was right there. All the papers, all the websites, all the TV, cable guys. So good for us. Good for you. You got some attention. It's what we need. Again, as I said a minute ago, it has to be sustained, but great news. In other news, on Saturday, a third day of golfing, and he qualified for the finals in his club golf tournament. So Dear Leader is just doing great there. And then on Sunday, the Orange Menace golfed for a 4th day in a row and took another club championship. Good for Dear Leader. All right, as promised, taboo topics, thinking the unthinkable, suggesting the impossible, things I'm not supposed to say. Things like, is Border Czar Tom Homan drunk? Whenever I see him on the media, I literally can't understand a word he says. They need to use captions. They need to put captions on the screen because I can't understand a word the man says. He really, really looks like he's drunk. Things we're not supposed to say. I miss the old Jardiance jingle. Have you seen the new commercials? They're butchering the song. I never thought I'd say it, but I miss the original. Now, here's my guess. Bill Maher has a bit that he does very funny. I think maybe I've mentioned it before, where he says, I can't prove it for a fact, but I know it's true. I don't have the evidence. I can't prove it, but I'm sure it's true. It's a nice premise for a funny bit. That's what I think here. I think they couldn't renew the rights with the songwriter of the original Jardiance commercial. And so they're trying to change the song just enough to dodge a lawsuit on the copyright. I don't know that happened. I've seen no evidence that happened. I can't prove it happened, but I'm sure it did. And I'm going to finish here with the biggest thing you can't say. All right? I don't give a shit about the economy. The whole damn system can just fall for all I care. In fact, I hope it does. You can't say this out loud. I'm saying it out loud today. The whole damn thing just needs to crash. I don't care anymore. No, let me correct that. I want it to. Because I don't see any other way we get out of this. We need a real alternative to defeat MAGA. So if the whole thing has to fall apart in order for all of us to get together and build something new, so be it. Going back to what we had, the same old corporate Democrats, late-stage capitalism, this weak, damaged democracy, You really can't even call it a democracy, even before the Orange Menace. No, only a real alternative system can both defeat MAGA and create a real alternative that we can have for long-term success. It puts MAGA in the history books for the next 500 years. Donald Trump is destroying the office of the presidency, and I'm all for it. The presidency. The new system after the revolution has to have a very weak figurehead president. They can be strong only in seeing that the laws are enforced, laws that are created by the people's house, but not one that sets policy. I don't want a president setting policy. I don't want one person with all this power. It's ridiculous. This is what we have to lose. So if Trump is destroying that, good. And while we're at it, the Democratic Party. They made our current situation possible by being total p***s. That's something else you can't say. Give me an alternative for the word p***. I know I'm not supposed to say it. By the way, if you're using this situation to raise political money, I hate you. If you're capitulating to hold power, I hate you. If you're using this situation to run for president, f*** you. Democrats, they're all talk and no walk. Kamala Harris and Barack Obama can shut the f*** all the way up. Talk is cheap. It's time to disrupt. Democrats, stop telling us it's up to us. That's all I keep hearing from them. Oh, it's up to you. Do your job. Stop the gears of Congress. Obstruct. Join the protesters. Don't just get up in front of them and make a speech. Join them on the front line. Chain yourself to something. Get arrested. The speeches are all well and good, but come on. You got to get your hands dirty. So elected officials, get on the ball. Media, so-called liberal talking heads are making things worse. Stop treating political analysis like it's sports analysis, like it's some big game. And stop being led around by the nose, chasing the daily headlines, chasing the daily tweets and proclamations of Dear Leader Orange Menace. What are you doing? It's like he's got one of these laser pointers and the media is a cat chasing it around. Now, if you're reporting straight news, that's fine. Report all the straight news you want. But the real problem is these endless hours of analysis and opinion, much of which is like just totally snooty and academic and like 30,000 feet too high. You know, the Ezra Kleins of the world. Come on, give us something we can use. And then for others in the media, if your content primarily consists of cheap shots at MAGA weirdos, just shut up. You're not helping. If you want to pepper those little stories in occasionally, fine. It's entertaining. But don't make that your whole deal. And while we're at it, if you're not a professional comedian, stop trying to be funny. You're not funny. You're just an asshole. And again, you're not helping. Media, if you're just using this situation to get likes and clicks, I hate you. If you're using this to sell books or promote your content or build your brand, I hate you. If you're not offering or at least promoting or covering some concrete action, then just shut up already. If you really want to help, cover the protest, interview organizers, give us ideas, give us strategies and tactics that we can use. If you're just doing all the other stuff, shut up already. You're not helping. And then there's this whole area of elite universities and law firms and corporations. If you're capitalizing on the situation to make money, screw you. If you're capitulating, if you're bowing down in order to make money or to keep your money, screw you. And then all of us, the public, we have to take our own responsibility too. I mean, protesting only goes so far. You and I have talked about this at length. I love the fact that millions of people turned out. That's fantastic. It's not going to work ultimately. We need disruptive actions that shut down business as usual until our demands are met. From the people I'm criticizing here, elite media, politicians, many of us ourselves in the public, there's just a lack of imagination as to how bad this can get and how good we can be if we really think in terms of a revolution. So there's a lack of imagination. For many, there's a lack of urgency. Still, again, this weekend was great. The Booker speech, I was complimentary about that. It raised the urgency, very good. But still, and especially from the ruling class and from the so-called centrists in media and politics, lack of urgency is mind-boggling. Because we need a movement as bold as Trumpism has been. For everything you can say about MAGA, it's bold. So in order to defeat MAGA, in order to hold the victory and not backslide, we need a movement that is at least as bold. Progressive populism. All of you centrists, all of you moderates, all of you folks who want to compromise and find common ground, you need to just get out of the way. You're not helping. In fact, you're making our job impossible. Because voters may very well put the Democrats back in Congress in 26. In fact, I'm expecting it. I'm also expecting a Democratic president to be elected in 2028. So that's why our movement has to be revolutionary. It has to be progressive populism, and it has to be more powerful than MAGA. We not only have to win, but we have to have the legs to maintain it. Otherwise, it's just some sort of uncomfortable ceasefire where we cede all the ground we've already lost. When we come out of this thing, we have to have lateral power. Power must be distributed laterally. That is democracy. And that means a weak president. I don't want a strong president. I want a president who is a boring manager, who sees to it that the laws are enforced, just like it says in the Constitution. Our movement has to put money away in a drawer where it can't hurt us anymore. Profit needs to go. Money and profit need to be extracted. They need to be surgically removed from the body politic. They can't be in charge anymore. And with this whole ridiculous debate we're in right now about the tariffs and the world economy, screw it all. Growth needs to go away. The GDP, fuck growth, fuck the GDP. We need negative growth. We need negative GDP, which both the Repugs and the Dems are just married to because they're not revolutionary parties. Well, the Repugs are when it comes to installing fascism, and an extreme special disdain for so-called centrists who think they can get between these two and accomplish anything. Make the world better, make our lives better. No, we need to come out of this as revolutionaries with a brand new system. Hierarchical power, gone. The power of money, gone. Freedom to work and live as you choose. Our material needs will be met more efficiently and more fairly without the coercion of having to have a job. We'll all work. People will work. What makes you think they won't work without the threat of poverty and literal death hanging over their heads? You really think that little of people? Is your opinion of your fellow humans that incredibly low that you think they'll only work and serve the common good under a threat of poverty and death? Is that what you think? And nobody in mainstream media, in mainstream government is offering any sort of reform analysis or solutions. Nobody. That's why I keep begging you to get off corporate media. They're brainwashing you. I mean, for God's sakes, even Bernie and AOC advocate for growth. They're considered far left by the corporate media. Our lack of imagination is unfathomable. I mean, the Democrats, have you noticed in their arguments of these breathless response to the tariffs? Have you noticed in their arguments, well, we have to have cheap foreign labor, otherwise prices will go up. We have to have cheap immigrant labor. These are Democrats making these arguments. We can't live without exploited foreign labor. Children in China building iPhones? We have to maintain this system, otherwise our iPhones will cost too much. What kind of depravity is this? These are the Democrats. This is the so-called left. You think they're making this wonderful, empathetic, left-wing argument on behalf of immigrants, but then they come right out and say it out loud. Well, do you want your lettuce to triple in price? We need to have cheap labor that can be exploited. We got to start thinking like revolutionaries, people. We got to get out of this mindset. We have to escape this mind-numbing way of looking at the world. And if you think that this current situation is enough to kick us into a new era, take it from someone who's been down this road before. I thought Watergate would change things when we discovered the corruption of government. I thought the Bush administration and their torture policies and their preemptive strikes, I thought that would change America for the better as we realized the evil of that. I thought the 2008 economic collapse would change America when we discovered that the whole thing is just built like a house of cards and all based on debt and gaming the financial system. Well, surely the Americans will see how bad this system is and will demand not only alleviation of current pains, but a new system, real, honest to goodness reform. I fell for that too many times. I'm not falling for it anymore. So here we are again, stock market crashing. You might think, well, okay, if we oppose the Orange Menace and if we get the Democrats back into the House and Senate, elect a Democratic president in 28, we'll be back on the right track. No, because with each one of the examples I gave you, we just continued our slide into what ultimately resulted in the Orange Menace. I'm not falling for this again. We need real revolution. The Orange Menace is just playing games with this whole stock market thing. He doesn't care. He'll make deals with countries and then pretend he had big victories over them. But the rich will get richer through all of this. They always do. The middle class will continue to get strung along on promises of being rich someday. They always do. The poor and the working class will continue to get screwed. They always do. The wealth and income gap will continue to widen. It always does. Nothing will change. We can get through this, and even if we win, nothing will change without a revolution, without real fundamental reform in how we do business. These Democrats fighting for the status quo, fighting for growth, having that as a default, as a fundamental axiom, we have to grow. When PBS and NPR were testifying last week in some congressional committee, a Republican cited a study, said that NPR had hundreds of references to the so-called far right and only a small handful of references to the far left, as though this was some big accusation, some big gotcha question. So he asked Catherine Marr, CEO of NPR, why is that? Why is it hundreds of references to the far right and almost none to the far left? And she had no answer. She just wriggled and kind of looked guilty. The answer was so easy. She just needed to look at him and says, Senator, there is no far left in this country. How do you cover something that doesn't exist? And then if the senator had pushed back, no far left, well, of course there's a far left. Ask him. Name a far left politician. I'll ask you right now. Name a far left politician. Go ahead. I'm listening. You can't. If you say AOC or Bernie, then that's just proof that you're brainwashed. On any reasonable scale of a political spectrum, AOC and Bernie are barely left of center. Name a far left activist. Can't think of one. Who's a far left activist? Name a far left organization. Let me think. Antifa? No, Antifa is not an organization. They don't have any kind of structure. They don't have personnel. They don't have a president. They don't have members. There's no such thing as Antifa other than an idea that fascism is bad and sometimes has to be defended against with force. Antifa is an idea. It's not an organization. So that's where we are. We have no left. We have no revolutionary thinking. We have nothing to meet the power of MAGA unless we build it. And then when it's all said and done, the things that got us here are gone. The insistence on limitless and endless growth. No, we need negative growth. We need anti-consumption, anti-manufacturing. We need less stuff, less business, more caregiving, more freedom, more guaranteed rights. The government should provide all economic rights: food, housing, healthcare, education, digital services, transportation, a universal basic income for basic needs, clothing, taking care of pets, leisure and travel, that sort of thing. Things will still get done. Food will still be grown and distributed. Clothing will be produced. All the material things we need we'll have. But all the junk we don't need will be deprioritized or eliminated because we don't have to serve this mythical, magical kingdom known as the economy in order to keep funneling more and more money and power to the top 1%. Extracting resources from the earth, creating the goods and services necessary for a decent life, creating a world where we can all care for each other, where we can educate and learn, where we can be healthy. Nowhere is it written by any god in any stone that money has to be the very center of how we organize all of this. And the people with the money, the people with the power, the top 1%, control all corporations, they control all media, and they've got you brainwashed. There are millions of people who would love to trash the whole damn system, but we're silenced through media. We are physically abused and killed if we get anywhere near a measurable position of influence. This is something I can't prove. I just know it's true. Millions upon millions of us want this now, and hundreds of millions of us lack the information or even the imagination, but they too would welcome this revolution if they could imagine it and if they got the information. So I just like to add my small voice to the hundreds of millions of people I know who are out there, who understand what needs to happen. And if the Orange Menace destroying America and destroying the world order is what it takes, then so be it. American exceptionalism can just go into the history books. We don't need to have the fiercest military. We don't need to be the richest. We just need to be one nation among many who care for the rule of law and care for each other. We're not supposed to say these things. We're not supposed to even think these things. But I know that you are. And I know that hundreds of millions of people are ready for what's next. All right. I'm Charles Purcell. I'll talk to you soon.